Given that you're in the business of AI and you are in the space of AI, what is the one AI myth you wish people would stop believing?
That AI will cost jobs. It will take away some jobs, but just like anything else, like electricity and computers, we will end up with far more wealth and far better distributed wealth than ever.
What's the simplest way for a business owner to understand whether they are AI ready or not? Is it just willingness?
So, well, one way to answer that is, proof of pudding is in the eating. If they try it and it works, then they can build more into it. They can invest more into it, so they can dip their feet and see.
I want to ask you this: if you had to break down practical AI use cases for SMEs, things that they can adopt immediately without heavy investments, can you give us some examples? This could be in terms of automating customer support or even something simpler. What would it be?
So it's always very contextual, right? So one thing I would advise is, before you jump into the tool, try and understand where are your pain points and what aspect, if done right, will give you the biggest bang for the buck, right? So a few things that that AI has real promises for is so here it may sound like I'm kind of going against what I said earlier about the hype around human-like AI robots, but if you think about repetitive tasks that you have a human do, those are great examples of things that if you design your AI right, they can be taken up and done. So I'd recommend first look at what are those top 2 or 3 things that you do that take the most amount of time and are fairly repeatable. Meaning you have maybe 10-20 examples of pretty much the exact same thing you did with a small little change here or there. Why? Because that forms a case where you have enough data to either train or fine tune a AI model, or even to just do some multi-shot examples to make it produce an output that is close enough for you to give. Right. That's one category. Other is there are a number of things that a company does where accuracy itself is not necessarily the either a big KPI or even a major, right? Like for example, if you want to create a marketing collateral, marketing as long as it is believable, I mean, there may not be a right answer, so right, which is different from, for example, you need to find the exact right number for whatever you price thing for or something. So those are good things where essentially you can lower the barrier to having a trained individual create content and maybe use AI content creation, iterating a few times to get you close enough. Other things are AI for productivity, like I was saying, that these days, skimming over less important emails and messages and so on and so forth. It's getting fairly good at it. So that whole automating out the clutter, that's where you can start. And then the next step is what are the most repeated and kind of formula based things.
And, you know, A- is leveraging things like chatbots or automation platforms or cloud based analytics too advanced for SMEs, or can they do that without needing a data science team?
So the barrier to deploying chatbots is coming down, by every passing month, um, to the point where relatively simple chatbots, I think almost anybody can deploy. Where it gets complicated are a few things. So one is where you have a lot of customer data and you've got a lot of customer context and your own product context and so on and so forth. So that's where you need to be careful about how you bring in that knowledge base. There are techniques like RAG and so on and so forth, which are becoming more and more accessible to do and deploy. So that is one thing. The other is to create the type of experience for your customer that truly makes them happy, retains them, rather than making them feel like, hey, I'm talking to a robot that just does not understand me. And this is not about SMEs or big companies, even chatbots from some pretty big companies. I think we all have experiences with. Uh, they keep repeating the same thing over and over again, and you feel like you're in a chatbot jail that you just cannot get out of. So it's not about the amount of investment that you can make, but it is about thinking customer first and designing that flow right. Some things you can do fairly easily, and for others, if you do it carefully so that you don't give a wrong answer back to the customer, and if necessary, uh, uh, if your customer does get caught in that chatbot hell, there is a escape route.
Okay. And there is a growing reliance on AI. We're all using it, all organizations are looking at it. What should SMEs know about data privacy, data security, and responsible AI if they are implementing AI in their organizations?
Yeah. So data privacy is something that is a is something for any IT enabled, any data retaining company to be aware of. And in many ways, it's actually independent of whether they are using AI or not. However, that said, data is the base on top of all AI works, right? So even in order to get to AI, you have to fix your data in the first place. And when you're fixing your data, those aspects, who has aspect to what data? What data are you collecting from the customer? What are your regulatory obligations on that data? What are your customer, license agreement obligations, user agreement obligations to your data and all of that? Those need to be, properly kind of subsumed in your data lifecycle processes. What you collect, how you store, who do you give access to, what is your purging policy, how do you keep the records on consent and consent to record, consent to use, and even deletion of consent where you give up
Correct.
on that data and so on and so forth. Um, Fortunately, in the financial industry, a lot of these are getting codified pretty well. So there is the TPTP Act that is about to be kind of mandatory on all of us regulated financial entities. And it's quite comprehensive, both in terms of consumer safeguards, and I think consumers can really feel safe that organizations using AI on their data, when they are truly compliant with them, they are it, uh, it helps their business with the company, but it also it's not too restrictive. It is not like Europe, where basically they shot themselves in the foot in the name of privacy, and perhaps would end up paying quite a bit of let us say technology obsolescence cost. But actually, it's quite progressive the way the data privacy is being handled by the Indian regulators.
So that's really interesting because I think it gives the SMEs an opportunity to understand that they can do all of this and not really have to, and they have solutions to find in terms of data privacy, in terms of uh, you know security and responsible AI. Before I conclude, my last question for you, and this conversation is so interesting, I'm sure we can continue for a much longer time. But before I conclude today's session, I wanted to ask you if you had to give one piece of advice to SME founders who want to do big with AI, what would your advice be?
So, first of all, make sure you have a strong base in data. That's the boring part, but don't leave home without data, like truly governed data. Second, um, be be flexible to change in your AI architecture and your designs around them. We live in a world where almost every week you wake up and see a new model on the leaderboard, on the top of the leaderboard, right? So, like for example, we deliberately took a step to make our AI stack to be multi LLM, to be something that can very flexibly build agents on multiple different platforms, coming from multiple different lineages, and yet talk to them, talk to different tools, MCP, using A2A, and so on and so forth. Um, and and then always remember that AI is, at the end of the day, an enabler. You need to find your niche, especially if you're SME. You need to find your niche where you have a kind of a traditionally um, uh, defendable moat, right? Because if you're trying to find one aspect of imperfection in OpenAI's models, maybe you will get away with it with GPT-5, but would you really be sure that there won't be that weakness will still be there in the next year, right? So those are things to think about when you make a AI first business.
Okay, great. Debarag, this has been absolutely fascinating. Thank you so much for sharing so much of your knowledge with us. Um, Once again, absolute pleasure having you on the Tata Daily Services Too Big podcast. Wonderful to have you.
Thank you, Shizal. It was my pleasure.
Thank you so much.